The American Revolutionary War is one of the most defining events in history. It marked the birth of a new nation, the United States of America, and set in motion a chain of events that would change the course of history forever. But what if the United States had lost the Revolutionary War? What if the British Empire had defeated the American colonies and maintained control? This scenario would have altered not only the future of the U.S., but the entire world as well. Let's explore what might have happened. The first and most obvious change would be the continuation of British rule in America. The American colonies would have remained a part of the British Empire. Instead of the United States declaring its independence in 1776, the colonies would have stayed under British control, continuing to operate as they had before the Revolution. The dream of creating a nation based on freedom, equality, and self-governance would have been crushed. Instead of becoming a beacon of liberty, the land that would become the United States would have been just another colony in the British Empire, contributing to the empire's wealth and global dominance. Politically, the colonies would have continued to have limited representation in the British Parliament, much as they had before the Revolution. The political ideals that the Founding Fathers championed, like democracy, the separation of powers, and individual rights, would not have taken root. The colonies might have continued to send representatives to Parliament, but they would not have had the power to shape the laws that governed them. The British Crown would have maintained its control over the colonies, and the colonists would have had little say in the decisions that affected their daily lives. The colonies' economic situation would have been very different as well. Under British rule, the colonies were expected to produce raw materials and agricultural goods, which were sent back to Britain to be manufactured and sold. In return, the colonies received finished products from Britain, but they did not have the economic freedom to build their own industries. The economic relationship was one of exploitation, with the colonies serving as a source of wealth for the British Empire. If the American colonies had lost the war, this economic system would have continued. The United States would not have become the economic powerhouse it is today. Instead, the colonies would have remained dependent on Britain for manufactured goods and capital. The rise of industries like steel, oil, and automobiles, which helped shape the modern economy, might never have happened. The Industrial Revolution, which transformed the world, could have taken a much different path, with Britain continuing to dominate the global economy. Slavery in the southern colonies was another issue that could have been affected by a British victory. Before the Revolution, slavery was deeply entrenched in the southern economy. While Britain had abolished the transatlantic slave trade in 1807, the institution of slavery itself continued in its colonies for many years. If the American colonies had remained British, it's possible that slavery might have lasted much longer in the South. The abolitionist movements that gained strength in the 19th century would not have been as powerful without the independence of the United States. Slavery may have persisted until Britain chose to act, but even then, it could have taken much longer for abolition to come to the southern colonies. The U.S. Civil War, which was fought largely over the issue of slavery, might never have occurred, and the racial dynamics in the country would have looked very different. The social structure of the colonies would have also been significantly altered. The desire for independence and the creation of a new nation provided an opportunity for social mobility and the rethinking of traditional hierarchies. Without the Revolution, the aristocratic families who controlled much of the land and wealth in the colonies would have remained in power. The idea of an egalitarian society where people could rise above their social class through hard work and ingenuity might never have taken hold. The American dream, as we know it today, might have remained a distant fantasy, never fully realized. On the cultural front, the American identity might have never emerged. The idea of being American is closely tied to the country's history of rebellion against British rule. The Revolution brought together people from different colonies, uniting them under the banner of independence. If the colonies had remained British, that sense of unity and national identity might never have formed. Instead of the diverse, multicultural nation that emerged in the 19th and 20th centuries, The colonies could have continued to be a collection of British-controlled territories, each with its own unique culture, but lacking the common identity that comes with self-governance and freedom. The impact on the world stage would have been even more dramatic. The United States played a crucial role in the spread of democratic ideals and the rise of nationalism across the globe. Without the American Revolution, it's likely that the wave of revolutions that swept through Europe and Latin America in the 19th century would have been delayed, if not prevented entirely. The French Revolution, which was inspired by the American example, might never have happened without the example of the US fighting for freedom and independence. The idea of challenging monarchies and empires would have been far less appealing to the people of Europe. In Latin America, the fight for independence from Spain might have been less successful. The American Revolution served as a model for the countries in South and Central America that sought to break free from Spanish rule. If the US had remained under British control, the wave of independence movements in Latin America might have been delayed or squashed entirely. Countries like Mexico, Venezuela, and Argentina might have remained under colonial rule for much longer, preventing the development of modern Latin American nations. The British Empire itself would have been affected by the outcome of the American Revolution. The loss of the colonies was a blow to British prestige, but it also forced Britain to rethink its colonial policies. If the US had remained part of the empire, Britain might have continued to focus on maintaining its global dominance, but it would have been under constant pressure from its colonies. The British Empire might have continued to expand, but it would have faced resistance from its colonies, which would have been far more difficult to suppress if the spirit of revolution had taken root in the minds of the American colonists. Globally, the United States' eventual rise as a superpower might have been delayed or completely altered. The industrial and technological advancements that the US made in the 19th and 20th centuries were largely due to the freedom and independence that came with breaking away from Britain. Without the revolution, the US would have remained a small part of the British Empire, unable to compete with other nations for power and influence. The US might have never expanded westward, and it could have remained a collection of isolated colonies focused on maintaining their relationship with Britain rather than becoming a leader in global affairs. World wars, such as World War I and World War IE, might have played out differently as well. The United States was a key player in both of these conflicts, but without its independence, it's hard to say whether it would have had the power or desire to intervene. The course of the 20th century would have been profoundly different if the US had remained under British rule, and the outcome of both world wars might have been altered. The development of American culture, art, and technology would have been stifled without the freedom to innovate and experiment. American inventions like the airplane and the internet might never have been created. The rise of Hollywood and the global influence of American entertainment might have never happened. Without the spirit of independence and the drive to push boundaries, American culture might have remained locked in a more European mold, unable to break free and create something uniquely its own. In the end, the loss of the Revolutionary War would have had a far-reaching impact, not just on the United States, but on the entire world. The spread of democratic ideals, the rise of the American superpower, and the cultural and economic influence of the US would have been delayed, if not completely altered. The course of history would have been forever changed, and the world might not look the way it does today. The dream of an independent, self-governed nation might have remained just that, a dream. So, what do you think? What would the world have looked like if the USA had lost the Revolutionary War? Let me know your thoughts, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.